There we go. Yes, we are live. So that's good. And that should pop. Okay, that's working.
It looks like we're live.
Indeed. Let me poke Kami. See if he can listen in real quick and make sure we can hear everyone.
Oh, I just heard myself sound really echoey.
Now that's one of the things we gotta test. Why won't you give me the link? That will. Brave. Why are you being difficult?
I think you got the wrong thumbnail.
Baggins is echoey too.
No, there's no way if you're echoey, he would.
Have you muted the Lee? Have you muted the stream?
I'm just gonna poke Kami's eye.
Right?
No.
Not yet. I'm waiting for the echo to go away.
I'm just saying maybe the echo is the stream.
No.
Okay.
This is weird. It's not showing the thumbnail is wrong.
Right now it shows why did I even buy this game? Hang on, let me refresh and see if it's different.
Showing the
Yeah, it's the why did I even buy this game?
but literally, it's not showing that it's not that.
I'm just saying when I open.
Yeah, I'm just saying on my end, like what I'm looking at, it's not showing that.
I saw number 009.
Okay, now it's showing there. Huh. That's weird because like if I go to the left, so on my recommended page it was given the old one, but
Lies, deception.
Tacos.
You got to watch out for those. Okay,
Yeah,
Kami's
that's
eye
weird,
says
huh?
you are echoing, so give me a moment. I can fix that. Kami's eye, have they stopped echoing? You guys could talk.
I can fix it.
Can we fix it?
Fix it, Felix, as fast as you can.
Oh, I thought this was Bob the Builder for a moment.
It was at first, but I
think
can't
it
keep
sounds
up with
better
these
now.
crazy kids these days.
All I know is after visiting my family and helping with my niece, I now have an abiding hatred for Miss Rachel.
Miss Rachel. I don't even know what that is.
So it's a show for babies. Now, I don't mean that as an insult. I mean it's literally for babies, and
Yes,
so
yes, it is.
it's all the stuff like they're teaching hand gestures and songs and all the things from ages 2 and below type of stuff, and the but it's just so mind numbing because it's
Must be too new for me, I guess.
yeah, well, it's a YouTube channel. So what they do, I actually think it's quite brilliant because it's got decent actual quality, but they loop the video, so it might be maybe an hour's worth of content, but they loop it so that the kids
My
get.
question is, why were you sitting and watching it for multiple hours?
I
that
wasn't.
you
I
knew
was
that
hearing it because I was babysitting my niece, and she hates me. She does not like Uncle Jordan at all. Which
Dear.
I tried all my other nieces and nephews loved me. I had all sorts of tricks for them, but I tried everything and it did not work. So the only thing that would get her to stop yelling is watching Miss Rachel. But I just hear her singing songs over and over again. And I'm just like, okay, gonna burn it all down. But I didn't actually burn it all down.
Good, because that would make you a bad babysitter, typically.
It would, typically. And guest. Okay. So it sounds like the audio's good then? And I can get started?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to let Mithril and Kami's affirm.
I'm curious. Do you post edit and cut out the early part?
He doesn't do anything. Oh gosh, it's a One Piece reference. I'm doing nonograms right now, and people can submit their own. And the symbol is just, it's called King of Pirates, and it looks like a skull and crossbones, and it has that
The straw hat.
on top. Yes,
Oh, that's
I'm just
cool.
Like,
Everything I know about One Piece, I only know from the Netflix show. So I'm weird like that.
I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it, so. But I don't have Netflix, so.
Other than it's long? Or are you talking about the Netflix? Or
Netflix. We literally said it twice.
Yeah, I think the Netflix is pretty good. The One Piece Netflix.
Yeah, which I did not expect after everything I heard about Cowboy Bebop.
You know, I also have the controversial take that I didn't think it was that bad, but
Not exactly a ringing endorsement, though.
it's not as good as the original. Which, you know, how can it be? But I didn't think it was unwatchable.
I don't know. What I saw of the live One Piece, I wasn't that impressed by it, but I also don't have a whole lot of negative to say other than they made it a lot more gory than the original anime.
I've heard from the manga people that they really like it.
That's true. The manga has more gore than the anime, so.
And it doesn't have the worst voice acting in the history of dubs, so.
I only had to watch 10 episodes and not 1,000.
Wait, you talking about the old 4Kids dub
Yeah.
or the newer
The 4Kids
Funimation
dub.
Okay. Though the fact that the voice of Luffy in the new Funimation one is oh my goodness, I'm pulling a blank on her name all of a sudden, but you know, the voice of
Nami?
No, Luffy.
Oh.
All I know is it's a voice actress that I'm used to her doing, you know, like Urza Scarlet from Fairy Tail, that voice, and hearing her do Luffy once I realized it was her, totally just blew my mind, and I can't believe I'm blanking on her name.
The actor's name?
Yeah, the actress's name.
All right. I am ready to go, so get ready.
Okay, more One Piece. Let's go.
All right. So with levels, sometimes you get into a game, you're liking the game, but you get to a certain level and suddenly you fall in love with the game. For me, one of the first examples of that I can think of is with Mario Brothers 3. Levels 1, 2, and 3, like, you can be forgiven if you played only Mario's 1 and 2. You play 3, you could be forgiven for thinking this is a completely different console. Because it's actually kind of incredible that Mario 3 is running on the same thing that the original Mario Brothers was on. But you get to level 1, and it's a grassland. We've seen Mario in grasslands. You get to level 2, and it's a desert. In Mario 2, we saw a desert. 3, it's just, they take the idea of the water level, and they expand it to an entire land. But then you get to level 4, Giant Land. And I had never seen anything like this before. Everything was giant. They had new sprites just for this level and only this level. They had waterfalls you could swim up. The blocks were huge. The clouds were huge, and it just made me my little, I was probably 5 or 6 year old brain just exploded. Just with this idea of what was suddenly possible that I didn't know was possible before. And it's what made me start to fall in love with Mario Brothers 3. Pirate, did you have a level that suddenly made you fall in love with the game?
So, I was probably a little older when I really had a level that just really struck me. It was from this little game called TIE Fighter. And probably have talked about that one recently here. So TIE Fighter, for those who aren't familiar, it's basically you fly for the Empire. You're the baddies, and like it's that in of itself is supposed to make you feel whatever. I don't know. As a 8-year-old, I was fine with it. Anyway, they start you out with the earlier missions. You're flying like a basic TIE fighter, no shields. It's like 2 shots can kill you, and it's kind of hard, but they ease you into the difficulty. It's not bad. Um, and there's little stories going along like, oh, you're fighting pirates or you're trying to stop a civil war, and so it really wasn't until the 5th campaign, and each campaign had about like 6 or 7 battles or missions in it, where you are suddenly you go into your regular briefing, but you don't have the regular officer there to tell you what to do. That you just have this general like map of the mission that says like, hey, you're supposed to fly this unshielded TIE fighter, actually the TIE Interceptor, and take out a minefield while your minions watch, and we'll see how good you are, basically. And I'm like, gosh, that's putting a lot of weight on my shoulders, but okay. So you go out there, and for a minefield in TIE Fighter is basically like a bunch of little floating laser turrets. And, you can only take 2 hits, so it's a bit sweaty as you're flying around. And after you're going around trying to take this minefield for a minute, suddenly an order comes to your wingmen who are watching you to shoot you down, and they call you the Emperor Stool Pigeon, and all of a sudden you are betrayed, and you are running for your life from not just your wingmen, but also the big ship that you flew out of now shoots at you. And I never knew that you could be betrayed in such a way on a video game, and they took my trust and absolutely shattered it. And I suddenly found myself at a loss because I couldn't fight them. I thought that's what I had to do. I thought I had to fight them. I had to shoot them, and I had to shoot my way out. And after getting destroyed a couple of times, I suddenly realized, well, there always was an option to call for reinforcements. That I always felt like it like lowered your score, or it was just kind of frowned upon to do that. And so I decided, like, well, I'm by myself, and I don't know, I'll call for reinforcements and see what happens. And that actually summons the loyal Imperial forces, who were actually, like, if I bothered to read the secret mission briefing, they said, be on the lookout and call for help if you need it. But I was like, I don't need any help. I know what I'm doing. When I finally read the freaking manual, so to speak, that was the solution. And it just blew my mind that the game would play with you in such a way and betray your trust and force you to go against your instincts that you had built up over 5 campaigns at this point. And all of this, just also should add, you're being betrayed to the rebels. So the good, you're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be fighting with the good guys, but the good guys don't want to kill you still. So,
well, that's
but
something interesting about an interactive medium that isn't possible in any other type of medium.
Right, absolutely, because you are the one having to deal with this and manage it, and so and from that point, I was like, this is incredible. This is like peak gaming.
Yeah. Looney, what do you got?
Well, for me, there was this little game called Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess that I played on the GameCube, and as I'm playing it, you have the first forest level, which is pretty standard fare, but then you get to the Goron mines, and I'm like, oh, okay, I remember Ocarina of Time. I've played the mines, and it's like, okay, I get the iron boots, and wait a minute, what is this green wall? And I put on the boots, and then suddenly I magnetically get sucked onto the wall, and I start walking on the wall. And I'm like, dude, this is cool. And there are other places where you got to walk on the ceiling and walk on the wall. It's like now I can go places that I couldn't before because I'm magnetically using my iron boots to be attached to the wall. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I'm like, wow, this game's awesome. And, I get through the next level. I'm like, okay, standard water temple, it's okay, it's not bad. But then I get to Arbiter Grounds, and then there's this new item that's a spinner, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. It's Crossfire, and but then there are these tracks on the wall, and then you start riding on them.
So
And
you got
holy
caught
cow,
up in it?
I got caught up in it, man. I got caught up in the crossfire. As you're jumping from area to area, I'm like, man, this traversal of on the wall, it's even cooler than walking on the walls earlier. Now I'm going fast and jumping off the wall from wall to wall. And then the boss there, oh my gosh. The boss of Arbiter Grounds, where you're on that, spinning top, jumping back and forth across that, trying to smack this giant Skulltula head. Not Skulltula, Stalfos head. Oh my goodness, Star-Lord. Just an awesome boss. And I'm like, man, this game's cool. The next
Awesome
dungeon.
boss.
Oh, I get to the next dungeon, which is the Snow Peak Ruins, which is like one of the coolest areas ever. And you get the giant, ball and chain, and just the whole layout of the Snow Peak Ruins, where it's like this giant mansion, but they still kind of make it a dungeon because of the way it's been deteriorated over time, making it traversal. You have to open up areas and go through like a full dungeon, but it's clearly a well thought out mansion that lived in at some point. And it was just a beautiful area. I'm like, man, this game is so cool in all of its dungeon design. It's amazing. Can it get any better? And then what was the next dungeon? Well, it was the Temple of Time, which is okay. But then after that, City in the Sky. Oh my goodness. In Ocarina of Time, I thought getting the hook shot was awesome. So when I got the claw shot in Twilight Princess, I'm like, oh, yes, I got the hook shot. This is going to be great. Man, okay, seeing this guy, is it going to give me the long shot? No, it's not the long shot. No, it's double claw shot, the dual claw shot, where you go from, you Spider-Man your way through the city in the sky. And I'm just like, man, look at this. This Link, he's just claw shot from one point to another point. He's staying in the air. He's not even touching the ground.
He's Spider-Man.
I mean, seriously, yeah, he's Spider-Man. I'm like, this is the coolest, manliest, buffest Link in all of Hyrule. This is awesome and amazing. And the boss of that is a giant flying dragon that you have to Spider-Man your way up to, get on his back, and then stab him in the back where he plummets to the ground. Oh my goodness. This game, the dungeons, the bosses, it was amazing. My goodness. Twilight Princess is an amazing, awesome game, and I love the dungeons and the dungeon design.
Something
The
I've
dungeons,
noticed. Something
the
I've
dungeons,
noticed.
but in particular the boss fights.
Yeah, well, something I'm noticing with the thing Lunasar's talking about, movement options. Because both with the spinner and the double claw shot, it completely changes how you look at, well, and even the magnetic iron boots. It completely changes how you move through a level. And it's something that blows your mind. It's something the Legend of Zelda series and Metroid, I think, are really good at. Just suddenly things change once you get a different tool.
I think that's a very good point, especially because there's a lot of games where you feel like you're playing one game, your abilities change, and you're just like, I'm playing a different game than I started. Like there's multiple games in this game, and that's awesome.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and that wasn't even the last of it, because the Hyrule Castle at the very end put a lot of these tools together. But the thing that amazed me about Hyrule Castle in this game was, as you enter the dungeon initially, it's playing the Hyrule Castle theme. But the further you progress, the Hyrule Castle theme fades out and Ganon's theme fades in. And the way that they remixed and overlaid and made special versions of mixing the two songs together that progress as you get further in the dungeon was just, chef's kiss. Just wonderful. Just wonderful. It's like, I can't pick just one dungeon, because over half of the dungeon in this game blew me away in a new way. I love it so much.
Yeah, no, the Legend of Zelda series has a lot of that. Because I just remember, like, in Ocarina of Time, the Forest Temple, for me, was when Ocarina of Time got good. because suddenly everything, it really took advantage of the 3D environment in a way I think the other levels hadn't, or the other dungeons hadn't yet, and changed how you think about things, because they had those puzzles where how the room because you could rotate the room with that twisted hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to start really thinking in 3 dimensions and be like, okay, wait, how does this, okay, if I move that, and you just have to start to figure it out. And so anything that sort of highlights a different style of thinking and movement, I think is always something that's going to get things to sort of just pop off. Baggins, what do you got?
That's a good segue into mine. So there's several of them that I want to bring up, but a lot of them are games that I want y'all to play, and so I don't want to spoil. So I'll go for an older one that I've mentioned. One of my favorite games of all time is Suikoden 2. So this isn't really a level; it's just a side quest that comes up, and you don't have to. It's completely optional, but and this is going to sound weird. It's the cooking mini game.
I'm sorry, what?
Okay, so for those who aren't familiar with Suikoden as the series, it's a classic JRPG, except rather than, you've got your party, you're going around, you're fighting the giant, you're trying to kill God type thing. In
as
this
you do.
one, in the Suikoden series, typically what happens is you start off as an individual who ends up in command of a resistance army of some sort. And as part of that, you go around and recruit people to join your army to build up your castle and your base and
Your
make
100 fighters or however many.
Yeah. So there's 108 in the Suikoden games. Ayuden Chronicle 100 Heroes just came out. There's actually a few more than 100 because Kickstarter was successful. So, but one of the characters that you could recruit is a chef. And you can go through and you can have him, you can gather recipes over the course of the game, give them to him. And if you have the ingredients, he'll craft them for you and give you items you can use in battle. Cool, fun. But sometimes when you go into the restaurant, there will be another chef there. And there's like this dark, sinister story about, like, I think they call it like the Black Dragon Guild. It's like this evil chef syndicate.
Okay.
Like, it's crazy. But essentially what they do is, like, you start unraveling this dark story that your chef has this hidden past, and their combats are cook-offs, and it is modeled after Iron Chef, to the point where the judges of the cook-offs are the characters that you've recruited over the course of the game. And it has like this weird production value. The mini game itself is very simple, but everything that surrounds it is just so interesting that it is one of the most beloved parts. For people who are fans of Suikoden 2, it's one of the most beloved parts. Because again, it's just one of these, where did this come from?
Yeah,
this is not the game. This is not the game I bought.
I can definitely say I wasn't anticipating chef cook-off in your stories today.
But somehow the story that you're uncovering, like this dark, sinister, seedy underbelly of the cooking world, is almost more engaging than the actual story of the game.
Jeez Louise.
And the thing that's great is Ayuden Chronicle, one of the Kickstarter goals was that they would include a cooking game. They included it. I'm playing it. I'm just like, this is what I wanted.
For the uninitiated, is it like the same devs that did the Suikoden?
Okay, so Ayuden Chronicle, so the last Suikoden game in the actual like mainline series came out about 20 years ago.
It's been a while. That's why.
Yeah, Konami owns it.
That's why.
And so basically it's just been completely shuttered. And 4 years ago, the original creator of the game and his team did a Kickstarter. It ended up being the second most successful video game Kickstarter of all time.
Oh, I was going to say he lost to Brandon. But
now that's specifically within Kickstarter. There are more successful crowdfunding campaigns, but specifically in Kickstarter, like they had a goal of like 500,000. They ended up making several million. Unfortunately, the Murayama, who was the head of the team, passed away in February, so he didn't survive to see the game released. Although I'm fairly certain he did survive to see the game completed. But anyway, yeah. So the game just came out, and I am absolutely loving it. So.
Yeah, cooking. Okay, yeah, I did not have cooking minigame on this at all. That was something that's out there.
If you talk to anyone who has played Suicune 2 and is a fan of it, just ask them about the cooking competition, and trust me, you will hear about it.
Oh, you'll hear about it. No. Surprises. That's definitely something that makes people take notice. I'm trying to think. So one for me. So Gordon will remember this because Gordon knew me back in our freshman year, and we were obsessed with Halo, the trial edition.
The trial version, yes.
And so we were playing the crap out of Blood Gulch just over and over and over again. But so over Christmas, I decided maybe I should get the actual game because I really liked this. So I did get the actual game. And so like at the start of the game, it's pretty much your standard sci-fi fare. And you're fighting the Covenant, you're trying to survive, humanity's on the brink, blah blah blah.
I think I know where you're going.
Wait, was this on PC or on Xbox?
I was on PC myself, so I was playing.
Sojiro.
Yeah,
this is Sojiro specifically.
I cannot believe you remember the name of my computer back then. Okay,
Nice. Of course, I would remember this. You were the one that we like nerded out on Kenshin together. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just I can't imagine. I don't know. I almost forgot it. Anyway, but no, the you get to a certain point where suddenly Cortana freaks out. She's like, "Oh my goodness, the fools! Go, go, go!" And she sends you off, and you don't stick together. So the first time you're alone, and you're following the footsteps, and the name of the level. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was something like "Should Be Left Alone" or something like that. Best Left. I can't remember. And so you're going through and you're retracing steps and you're seeing human bodies everywhere, Covenant bodies everywhere. You're seeing blood and it just nothing makes sense. And it starts off by you seeing the Covenant running from something, but you don't get to see what it is. And then you finally get in and you find these corpses of these Marines that you've actually sort of, seen throughout the campaign. And you get Private Jenkins' video feed, and you see them getting attacked by something very tentacly and very zombie-like. And you just escape. And then 343 Guilty Spark comes in for the first time. He's like, "Hey, the Flood has escaped. You're going to help me out." You're like, "What?" And then you just get teleported away into the library. And the library is intense. It's just you versus an army of Flood. It is so it was so good cinematically just because it started playing with your expectations. Like even little things like you'd walk into a room and all the defenses would be facing the wrong direction. And there's no one in the room, but there's blood on the ground. And you're just like, what is going on? The introduction of the Flood in Halo turns it from just a standard sci-fi shooter to one of the classics of the era. Good plot twists can really make a level suddenly pop.
Oh, this really reminds me of one that I wanted to talk about.
That being?
So not long after Halo, there was Half-Life 2.
Ah.
And the level that I think you know what I'm talking about.
We don't talk about that level.
We don't go there anymore. We don't go to Ravenholm.
Ravenholm.
This is I think it's at the first level that you go to after getting the gravity gun.
It is, and it's
Correct.
it is set up for the gravity
And
gun.
it is set up so well. So Ravenholm, a place that's just like destroyed and overrun by head crabs and head crab zombies. So we got the theme with the like the flood here, and now the head crab zombies is what reminded me. And you've got flamethrowers, you've got saw blades. And
You're dropping cars on them.
you other random stuff that you got your hold of, and whatever Father Grigori throws at you to help out occasionally, to take on and get through this awful place that you never should have gone through in the first place, but yet you do. And that was in introducing the various different ways that you can bisect, flame, smash, destroy all of the various things with the physics engine in Half-Life 2 was just awesome.
Yeah. Well, and it was such a big thing because they made it so that they were going to send so much at you that you were not going to be able to kill everything with bullets reliably. And so it would try and force you to use the gravity gun.
Oh, and some of just like the suspense, the times you'd be stuck on like a rooftop and you'd hear the fast zombie things, and you see the pipes that they're climbing up vibrate, so you at least know where they're going to come out from. And then I think they had the poison head crabs too.
Yeah, the tanky ones.
Gosh. Oh, so good and so scary.
No, that level was terrifying. But then it was also funny because Father Grigori just as a nice bit of levity thrown into the level for you.
They give you just a little bit of humanity to keep you from completely just dreading your life there. But boy, wow, that was really what amped up Half-Life 2 for me, was the Ravenholm sequence.
Well, and it was important because you needed to learn to use the gravity gun, because as the game goes on, the gravity gun becomes integral to you being actually able to solve puzzles. And so if you didn't learn, you were in for a bad time. No, the gravity gun was such a big thing. No, but yeah, and they do a good job of building up Ravenholm too, even though it's just a one-off comment. And just Alex leading you through the base, and she's like, "Oh, that way's Ravenholm. We don't go there anymore." And you're just like, "What happened?
Why don't we go there anymore?"
And then they attack, and you're just like, "Oh crap! Okay, and then you just get stuck, and you're just like, wait, I have to go through Ravenholm. I thought we don't go through Ravenholm anymore."
Well, I also love how, like, as you enter chapters in that game, it shows the title of the chapter, and for Ravenholm is, "We don't go to Ravenholm anymore."
Yeah. That's actually something that the shooters of the era were good with, because I just remember, like I said, with Halo, like I'll never forget the final level of Halo, where you go back to the Pillar of Autumn, which is now a burned out husk because it crash landed, and it just says the horse you rode in on.
Actually, that reminds me of another reference. It's not a level; it's just a moment in a game where you're like, "Oh, here we go." And this is one of your favorites, Splice, is Arkham City. The moment when you first put on the suit, and the achievement pops up, and it just says, "I'm Batman." And you're just like, "Here we go," because it showed you that the developer had thought outside the box.
Yes. Well, my favorite is, and I never did it because it would be insane, was the achievement for Arkham Origins to play the game on the insanity mode, where you can't die once, and if you do it, you get the achievement, "I am the Knight."
Nice. That would be an awesome achievement to have.
Nice.
Yeah, it'd be an amazing one. But yeah, though, that path lies madness.
Like, that's an achievement that you really, really want, but you do have to earn that one.
Yeah, it's
On another note with
it's a thing.
Yeah. On another note with achievements, in Portal 2, where you're. I mean, I don't want to be spoiler. I mean, it's an old game, so spoilers are clear. But if you don't want to be spoiled for Portal 2, jump forward like 5 minutes or even less, like 3 minutes. Anyway, it's the part where it's this is the part where I kill you, and then the chapter title, the part where he kills you, and then the achievement pops up. This is that part.
Yeah.
Just playing with all the levers they have to hammer the joke home.
It's one of those moments where you feel like, okay, the devs are making a joke here, and I get the joke. It feels like they've brought you into the joke rather, and it's just again, it's something you only get through a video game.
Well, I kind of had the same feeling, not with Portal 2, but Portal 1. The last level of Portal 1 was that way too, because up to that point you're like, oh, all right, it's a puzzle room, and then suddenly you're like,
It's like, wait, am I supposed to be here?
I'm like, wait. This looks like I'm gonna die if I continue on the path I'm supposed to. And then you look around and you're getting nervous. And you're like, what's going on? And you're like, wait, I can stick a portal here and here.
What they've done,
and then you jump, and then suddenly you're in this big area where it feels like you're out of bounds of the game suddenly because it's suddenly different.
What they've done is
that's where you're supposed to go.
They forced you to sequence break.
Yeah, exactly. And it's mind tripping when it happens, but it's like it's also makes it just so much more exciting and compelling too.
Well, it's interesting you bring it up because
another mind trip.
I was going to bring up Portal originally, but it wasn't that moment. Even though that moment is obviously an amazing moment because suddenly you're just like, oh my goodness, the rules have changed. No, I'm trying to remember which test chamber it was. But the one where you find the panel that is slightly askew.
Oh, then you go into the back area.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And you get you suddenly you get your first hints that
the not well.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, I'm not supposed to I'm leaving? Am I allowed to do this?
And you suddenly realize, because GLaDOS had been very off, just off the entire time. And so,
but funnily,
but suddenly that happens, and you're like, wait, and you just have that whole feeling of I'm in danger.
Well, it's like in Minecraft, the very first night where suddenly you hear that. And you're like, okay, this is not the fun that I was expecting.
I was just playing Legos. What's going on?
Why are the Legos trying to kill me?
Yeah, because the fact that they had the live test firing dummies, and you're just like, I think that's the same level, if memory serves me correct. I think the where you get the firing things are the first time you can go behind. Yeah, the turrets. I think it's the first time that you can go behind the walls, and so you're just like, yeah, I thought the live fire drones were an issue, but now that I'm back here and I see all this, the writings of a madman, I'm suddenly very concerned. And sure enough, you should be. No, I just love plot twists like that.
And mind twists. That makes me think of another one, but I don't know if someone else wants to go.
I have a mind twist ready to go.
Go for it.
So I was scrolling through my Steam library, and I found Psychonauts. And there's a particular level that stands out above all other levels in that game. I bet you can guess. It is
Lloyd.
Does it have to do with the
Milkman
circus?
Conspiracy.
Yep, the Milkman Conspiracy is. It's the game was fun before. The Milkman Conspiracy hits, and the game gets good.
Oh man, but just all the random spies and their random disguises saying the craziest things.
Oh, the writing on it is so hilarious.
So good.
No,
that's one I haven't played yet. It's on my list. It's even downloaded onto my Steam Deck.
Yeah, it's a fun one because before Psychonauts is interesting because, first of all, it really leans into sort of this Pablo Picasso style world where everyone's got these weird proportions, and you start to go into these minds, and everyone has their own issues of what you're looking at. But for the most part, like, it feels like a normal level.
It's like a platformer, you know?
Yeah.
Like
then you get into Lloyd's mind, and Lloyd is a conspiracy theorist, and he has a reason to be a conspiracy theorist because he's not all there, and he's had his mind messed with, and his mind is this MC Escher-esque, just Salvador Dali, like everything's sort of like not where it is, and gravity morphs around in ways that it shouldn't. And I tried to play it again, and I actually started getting motion sick as I'm getting older. That's becoming more and more an issue with me in some of these games. But like Lunasaur said, it is the writing is hilarious.
Beware the cows. Not all milk is enriched.
Yes.
I am the milkman. My milk is delicious. It's fortified with what the world wants. What the world deserves.
This is so good.
Splice, what is it with you and milk cults?
Don't worry about it.
Where's the milkman?
This is not the first milk cult you've talked to me about.
I bet he's sleeping on the job. His milk is delicious. Everyone wants it. He'll be here soon. Then the lies will end.
It's just so hilarious and stupid. I love it. No, Psychonauts and Psychonauts 2, I can wholeheartedly endorse.
Induce.
Yeah, I'm going to induce it too.
Psychonaut. Oh, man.
I am terrified.
Insane.
Terrified. I think that's
You should
the
be.
appropriate response.
You should be. That is not the verb I was looking for when I started that sentence, but it's the one I ended with. All right.
So I was
Pies
thinking
come in many flavors.
I was thinking of another Konami.
Rhubarb is a
Mindsburg.
controversial pie.
What
So,
about Konami?
Another Konami game, Metal Gear Solid, in particular, the Psycho Mantis.
Yep,
fight.
that was
Psycho
Twin
Mantis.
Snakes.
And when you talk about, you know, screwing with your mind, and also
How could you
screwing
not
with
bring up
you
Kojima?
as a player? Because you find yourself like, oh my gosh, there's nothing I can do to fight this guy. He like seems to move everywhere where I go, and like I can't hit him. And eventually you get this recommendation to put the controller in the second port. And I'm like, that's stupid. That doesn't do anything.
Well, it's because other games you've played, when you put the controller in the
doesn't
second
do
port,
anything.
it doesn't work.
Right. It does nothing. And you're like, why would that do anything? And I just ignore it, and I just keep bashing my head against the wall until finally I'm like, oh, screw it. What else do I have to lose? And suddenly that was the solution. Just like,
Well, and the funny thing is, it affects the game. He talks to you. He recognizes what you're doing.
he reads your memory card and
Yes.
talks about the games that you have saved on your PlayStation.
Konami games,
memory
yeah.
Yeah, all the Konami
Yes.
games.
Oh, well, and then when they ported it to the GameCube, because that was the version, I didn't play it.
You played Twin Snakes?
I didn't play. Well, so Twin Stakes, I didn't even play that one. I watched someone play it. Gordon, again, freshman year, or not this Bill, but a different Bill. Gordon might remember him.
Oh yeah, the redhead.
Yes, and so he was playing it, and I was in the room during that fight, and they brought the guy back in to
That guy would get really triggered with that.
Oh yeah, it was great. But no, so well, I'll never forget the first thing that like was really just leading him, just like he was frustrated, was the colonel being like you had to talk to someone, but you don't have the codec to talk to them, and he's like, "Isn't the number on the package?" And he's like, "The package? What package?"
Yes, it tells.
Yeah, and so he's like looking around for like a spare box that he's forgotten to, like look, and he's going all around the game, and I'm with them, and I'm equally confused because I don't know the lore of Kojima and how he likes to mess with his players, and so finally I'm just like, hey, can I look it up?
I got this one spoiled for me, unfortunately, because I got it from Blockbuster, and so they actually included on the cover from Blockbuster like the code that you needed.
Yeah, we could kind of would have to.
Yeah, it kind of deflates the moment because what it really originally was is on the case. Like they don't announce it or anything, but there's just like a screenshot of the codec of the person that you need to talk to with their frequency shown.
Yeah, and so he's just like, where? I've looked everywhere. Where is this package? And so I'm like, do you mind if I look it up? He's like, I'm tired of that. Sure. And so he just keeps looking around, and I just go on his computer and I look it up. And when I find out what it is, I'm just like, Bill, you are not going to believe this. He's like, what? And I hand him the box. I'm like, look at the back of the box.
The back of the actual box.
Yeah, and he just looks, and he's just like, are you kidding me? And like, it's simultaneously frustrating and brilliant at the same time.
Oh, it's so Kojima.
But the thing was, they actually got the voice actor for Psycho Mantis back to record, because obviously the games that are on the GameCube are very different than the PlayStation 2. And so he was reading that save file.
I think it was even older.
Oh, yeah. And so he's just going through and he's like, I see you like to play Super Smash Brothers. Which is just a different level of insanity and breaking the fourth wall that Kojima loves.
Oh, yeah. Also, during that Psycho...
What are you talking about? Kojima hates the fourth wall.
They would also
he abuses it.
They'd bring your screen to black. And it would make you think that something was wrong with your television, actually. And you're like, wait, what? You know,
like Eternal Darkness.
Yeah. which I only learned about from you guys, but yes.
No, the other thing that I just remember about that game was also the whole fission mailed, where you have to fake your death.
That was 2.
Oh, was that 2? Okay.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up, actually. But, because, I didn't actually play Metal Gear 1. Well, largely because we talked about it. I had the Purple Wonder when I tried. We talked about it in an earlier episode. It did not work.
You couldn't see what you needed to do.
But I did play Metal Gear Solid 2 before that. And I really enjoyed that game, but that game also had its moments because you're playing a snake initially, and it's fun, and it's the tanker. You finish that, and then suddenly you're
this other guy.
Snake, but then he takes his mask off, and it ain't Snake, it's Raiden. That was a bit of a mind bend right there because he totally Kojima you right in that moment, but then right at the end of the game, where the fission mailed happens, he pulls another Kojima on you where no, this isn't about nuclear war at all. Even though the first game was about nuclear war, it seems like it's all about nuclear weapons and nuclear war. And then suddenly it's like, no, it's about control of information and censorship on the internet, which was a mind-blowing idea at the time, but with recent events, it's actually prophetic. So it's just like, wow. And you had like AIs talking to you and messing with you, and had crazy things happening on your codec.
Yeah, all your codec gets screwed up royally.
Like everything, your head gets messed up. The fourth wall gets broke. You think you have game overs, but instead of saying mission failed, it says fission mailed.
The UI glitches out on you.
The UI glitches out. Your map messes up. Your at one point your little mini map gets replaced with like models doing just modeling, and it's like what the heck, why is there a model on the screen all of a sudden? And it just gets crazy, but it's actually, I don't know, pretty cool. And at the time it was just weird, but now it's like, man, I need to play that again just because of the way things have gone with the internet over the past 20 years. Like it's amazing just how accurate he was with the true dangers of control of the flow of information over the internet. So it was pretty cool.
Kojima's a mastermind. It's mind manipulation.
I'm sorry. Did you say you have another friend named Bill?
Yes. It's a somewhat common name.
Friendship over.
What?
This is betrayal right here.
It was before I even knew you.
I'm honestly trying to think of the last time I don't think I saw that.
Retroactive betrayal.
I saw him at Home Depot 10 years ago. He was working there. He was getting his,
pretty recent, actually.
he was getting his master's degree, and his Home Depot apron had Link on it because apparently they were allowed to style it.
Oh, he was able to have what do they call that in office space?
Flare.
The flare, yes.
This was very high effort flare. It was like he clearly had like drawn on it with like paint pen or something, and it was pretty good.
Wow.
Link was like pulling the master sword out of his pocket. It was really cool, actually.
It's like I don't even know you anymore.
But no. Yeah, geez, Kojima. But so
I do have another one.
Okay.
And I actually put a video link for this one. So Jak 3. So the Jak and Daxter games were some that they were unexpected favorites. Like the first one I picked up at a discount at Blockbuster because it was like buy two get one free, and I was like, sure, this one looks okay. Anyway, with Jak 3,
didn't it suddenly become a racing game?
So that's what I'm talking about. So you're playing it like Jak 1 is sort of Mario Kart, or not Mario Kart, Mario World.
Mm-hmm.
Not Mario World. Super Mario 64. I'm doing great tonight, I promise. No, but then in Jak 2, they introduced some GTA elements of it. So like you're walking around this city, it's more of an open world game. You can steal a car, drive around, and it's just like okay, but it's like a kiddie version, very cartoonish. But in this game, I'm walking around.
Baby's first Grand Theft Auto.
Kind of. Anyway, but as I'm walking around, they're like, "Hey, we need you to go out into the wastelands and take care of some metalheads that are moving around." I'm like, "Okay." Out into the wasteland. It's this giant desert, and you can see on the map, it's just this huge expanse. I'm like, where am I supposed to go? And of course, the goal is like way across the map. And then you walk through a door, and you're in a garage. And I was just like, oh no! And it's like this dune buggy with a chain gun on it. And as I'm driving along, the controls were so much fun. And I just remember driving around thinking, this game is completely different from the second one. Like it has all of the same hallmarks, but this driving aspect of it felt fun. Like I've never been a driving game person, but this felt fun.
Baby's first Mad Max as well.
And that's exactly what it was. It was Mad Max. And it was just glorious. Like I just drove around for a long time before I ever got to the mission because I was like, this is just fun. Because like you're driving around, right? And you can hit the boosters before you get on these jumps, and you're just flying all over the place. You pull up the handbrake and you like skid out, take super tight turns. It was just that's the only word I can think of for it. It was fun, and there were all sorts of challenges for it over the course of the game, and every single time, like, and a lot of them were super hard, and it was just the right balance of possible, but hard enough that when I finish it, I feel accomplished. Like you have to try it over and over and over.
Yeah, the previous entries for these Jak games were like regular platformers, right?
3D platformers, and this one was a 3D platformer as well.
Yes, but like with a lot more, like with the vehicles and everything, certainly a lot more added in.
Right. In the second game, they added in vehicles, and it was hover vehicles, and there were racing aspects of it that were a lot of fun. But this dune buggy driving, where you're on the ground and you're going across this uneven terrain and skidding out and stuff like that, that was new, and it was just so enjoyable.
Jak 2 had like a notorious system, right? Where you could
not super notorious. I mean, there wasn't any sort of meter. It's just if you attack a guard or knock over a guard, then they'll chase you. You have to go hide.
That's right. I just remember like getting on certain vehicles and accidentally running into guards.
Yes.
And then so it's like,
or accidentally stealing a guard's vehicle.
They didn't have like
Yes.
stars or anything like GTA.
No, it was just.
I just remember I would accidentally get in trouble, and it was listening to Gordon play Oblivion all over again.
I actually got an Oblivion one coming up, so
You know, it's funny. I'm watching this dune buggy, and it does look fun to drive, and it actually reminds me of another game where I very much enjoyed driving the vehicle that wasn't the main part of the game, but driving this vehicle over uneven terrain. Though I don't know if many other people would agree with me on this one, though. But
oh, are you gonna call out the Mako?
oh yeah!
Oh my gosh!
I loved driving the Mako
That
in
is a
Mass Effect.
controversial opinion for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I had so much fun driving the Mako around. I just loved it.
So the Mako was poorly utilized. I liked it at its base. I'll agree with you on that. I did. It was just very poorly utilized.
They really didn't like instruct you very well on how to use it.
I just loved its traversal options, how it could jump, and also sniping enemies from a very long distance. I had fun and battling the giant, dune-styled sandworms in it was also fun.
I forgot about the sandworms.
Yeah, that was
like
my Shepherd's backstory.
That was my Shepherd's backstory too.
The
And it's like
survivor one. Yeah,
I'm not just a survivor. I hunt them down in the Mako now.
Man, I forgot about picking that background. It was so long ago. Although for me, with Mass Effect, where it really kicked up to the next level, I really liked Mass Effect 1, but I think it was Vermeer. Is that where you?
I think that's the choice.
Yeah,
right?
that's the choice.
So. Yeah.
But frankly, the choice I didn't care about, because frankly, I didn't care about Ashley or
Caden.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if that was if Caden or if that was the name of the guy that I said he's just the same guy from KOTOR, and I didn't like him there either.
It's funny. I
Karth,
wanted to bring him
that's
up
what it
too.
is.
Yeah, because I really enjoyed the level where I accidentally killed Karth's son before I knew who Karth's son even was.
Oh, jeez.
Wow, you really Revan.
That got dark.
Well, yeah, in KOTOR, where there's the Sith planet, and I was playing as a Jedi Guardian, so I had Force Jump, and since everything's hostile on there, because they're all Sith, I could just jump across the entire map, clear an entire map screen in like 10 seconds, and it takes my teammates like 3 minutes to run across the map and catch up. It was fun for that reason, but I just kind of wiped out the whole planet, and then later you find out, oh, Karth's son there, and you need to make him stop being a Sith, and I'm like, oh, whoops. Sorry, Karth. I kind of force jump backstabbed your son a while ago and didn't even realize. Sorry, Karth.
If it makes it better, he deserved it. I doubt it made it better.
I don't know. I don't think sons are deserving of being murdered due to their father being annoying, but
I don't know.
Or having a bad dream, or I'm straying off topic.
It's not like the character was someone who, was known for trying to redeem monsters. Anyway, no.
I disapprove of murder, just for the record.
Follow your instincts. Anyway, the other thing that I just remember with Mass Effect that I loved was with like Vermeer, where it's just suddenly, holy crap, this matters. Like, because I didn't have the option, because I didn't know how to play the game, to not kill Rex. Because I'd sort of been willy-nilly on Renegade versus Paragon.
Paragon. Oh,
and so
wow.
I didn't have enough points in either one to get out of not killing Rex. And so I was like, what?
Oh no.
Now, I will say that sort of highlights the problem with morality systems. it's like it forces you down to some binary choices.
Mm-hmm.
Although it doesn't matter
development, but
yeah, it doesn't matter if I'm Paragon. I still always punch the reporter.
I think everyone does. I think it's actually the Paragon choice.
I didn't, but I wanted to.
Okay, Paragon forever. That's loony. Renegade for
Paragon
life.
for days. Paragon for days.
all right. Can I bring up something darker?
No. Now what are you gonna do?
The Dark Brotherhood questline in Oblivion.
Okay,
was-
wait, is that the one where you're assassinating everyone?
Probably.
Yes,
That's
and particular, I want to mention the Whodunit quest, where you are locked up in a house party and there is a murder, and you have to find out who done it, but actually you're there to kill them all. And it is like the most fun that I've ever thought that they could work into the game of Oblivion, because up to that point, your dialogue options are pretty generic. You're sort of like, hey, what rumors have you heard, or where can I find a store? But suddenly you had like dialogue options that like mattered, and you could turn people on each other, and you could make people doubt each other. And in the end, you're trying to just pit everyone against each other, or you just murder them all yourself. It's up to you. But like the freedom that they gave you in this locked environment to manipulate people.
Okay, wait. I have a question about this. Did you poison apples? Am I remembering this correct?
So I did do that. That was the culmination of the Brotherhood quest, where you have to destroy the Brotherhood itself in their own lair.
Kind of a jerk move.
But man, that quest line alone was really what sold me on Oblivion. I mean, like there's a lot to do in Oblivion, but that whole quest line, I mean, with the whodunit mystery in the middle, and like in the murder fests that you have to do there, that was really just like really sold the whole game there.
Yeah, I for some reason, like I don't know why, my brain remembered you poisoning apples.
Absolutely, that was my method of doing it, because they wouldn't immediately suspect you, because they're just suddenly like, oh, I'm losing health. What?
You see, I only remember 3 things from that game. Apparently, I would have said I only remember 2, but apparently I remembered poison apples.
You remembered the poison apples, so memory unlocked.
Yeah, so we're dusting off some memories that I didn't know still existed. I remember you constantly jumping around pillars if one of the Harrises would just be backseat watching you, because you would just give the excuse, I'm leveling up my jumping.
Yes, I would slalom through the pillars in the air
until they went away, and then your constant accidental becoming a pariah in the city, and having to run away from the town guard or hide under a table, as it's like, you should have paid the fine. You will pay with your blood.
It was so easy to set them off. I mean, I remember the very first thing I did was there was a pen and quill set, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Can I pick it up? I'm like, oh, I sure can. And I was like, your thieving days are at an end. And I'm like, good Lord, like what? Your crime spree is at an end. It's just like, you should. And I just remember when you found out you could hide under a table because the AI can't figure out how to crouch. And so the entire town guard would be running circles around this table, yelling at you. They can't get you.
Stop, thief! Stop! Halt!
So I'm guessing in Oblivion, it didn't, when you mouse over it, it didn't have the action be steal instead of take like it does in Skyrim.
It might have, but like, again, in the very first area, you don't know the difference. Like, oh, I don't know why my hand turned red on this particular thing.
Well, I'm just saying in Skyrim it had it had the word steal.
Yeah, I don't think they really gave you the word. Plus, there was also the option to just like hold an object, like manipulate it with, I think it was like Z or something like that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't actually take it into your inventory, but even touching something that
That
didn't
too.
belong to you would also set them off.
Oh man, yeah. It seems like they were a lot
It was
touchier than they were in
pretty
Skyrim.
draconian in the Oblivion
Wow.
game.
It was an
With your
issue.
eyes, not with your hands.
Yeah, it had issues.
Okay,
But
I've
it
got
was
another one.
fun.
Okay.
So, have any of y'all played Ori and the Blind Forest?
Yes.
Okay,
I have
Ori and the
heard
Blind
of it.
Forest, for those who haven't, this is a Metroidvania. It's utterly gorgeous. And first off, that alone is enough to catch a lot of people's attention. But there's a moment where there's really only a few what you would technically call levels that you try and go through. But in the first game, the first one that you go through is called the Ginsu tree, the Ginso tree. The Ginso tree. I was like, it's the Ginsu's knives. Anyway, the Ginso tree. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to restore the flow of water through this forest because the elements have been shut down. And when you beat the level, it has one of those load-bearing boss type things where as soon as you let loose the water, you then have to escape the water because suddenly everything around starts to gush. I put a video for this one in.
Gotcha.
And the music just swells and gets very, very intense and gorgeous at the same time. And it's a very, very motion, like you have to zip through perfectly. You can recover, but it requires some precision to get through. And the other thing that's really cool about it, though, is if you die, it starts you back really quick. It's not like die, there's a load screen. It's die, the screen goes dark for a second, and you're right in the middle of it again. So you don't lose that inertia. But there's just this feeling of, holy cow, this is epic with the music and the background and the lighting and the speed and the tempo. It's just very intense. And I just remember,
Yeah,
as
I
I'm
can
playing,
see
I'm just
that
like,
looking
this
at
is
this.
so cool.
Yeah.
So, but
No,
it's
and I
just
see. Yeah, well, and
incredible game.
everything I've watched from Ori, the way you move by jumping off of projectiles
Mm-hmm.
is
And this
pretty
absolutely
awesome.
highlights that.
No, it's
Yeah,
it's a
somehow
gorgeous
they've made
game.
it feel just incredibly satisfying to do, because it's not pixel perfect. It's got a little bit of that seat of your pants feeling to it, where you run and it's just like whoa, and so you're allowed. Yes, you have to be very precise, but you're allowed to make mistakes, and when you are able to steer out of those skids, it feels even cooler.
Yeah, games that can pull that trick off is always amazing. Like I mean, it's not really a level, but like Tony Hawk, like where there's this, it allows for creativity in movement, which isn't something I would have considered as a thing back in the day.
Yeah. It wasn't necessarily an amazing game, but in a similar premise, what's it? Mirror's Edge.
Yes.
If you're talking about creativity and movement, I mean, that game is about
That's all
parkour.
about movement, yes.
Yeah. The game itself had plenty of issues, but there was something satisfying about just a game about traversal.
Yeah, my game, when I try to play it, it's just someone shot glass and suddenly it crashed because it had really dynamic glass shattering
Lighting.
physics or something.
Oh, yeah, like the weird, they had like weird physics renderer or something.
Yep.
And it was just like, okay, well, apparently my computer can't handle this. We're just going to let this go now.
But no, Ori it captured that beauty of movement and just felt so good to play.
No.
And I felt like that escape sequence, which kind of became a hallmark of the game and the second game, is just that timed traversal. It was just very, very satisfying.
Oh, and that plus the idea of not having to necessarily kill every enemy you come across too.
Hmm. I mean,
Most
sometimes the enemy isn't there. I mean, sometimes you kill them through like it's almost more violent. Like you're not beating them up; you're just
well, you're just
launching
kicking
off
him
of them and hurling them into a flood.
right, but you're not having like a straight shootout like
Right.
so many of the other games usually
Yes.
expect you to have.
No, the Ori and the Blind Forest from again, I haven't played it yet. One of these days I'll
You
get
should.
around to it.
You really should.
But everything I've seen from it has a real like judo feel to it. Where it's all about using
Momentum.
using momentum and using specifically their momentum against them.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. And it can get really intense. I mean, this level especially. And it's fun doing it.
It's so much fun.
Anyway. All right. Well, dang it. Someone said they had something and we got sidetracked. No? Did I imagine
I
that?
think it
Well,
was me. I think it was
Pirate
me.
put a link in Discord. I just put
I-
another link in.
I put a link in the chat because that's the next thing I'd like to talk about. But
Gotcha. Which chat?
Oh.
the general Discord that we're in.
Okay, Discord. Got it. Sorry, I'm in multiple places right now, so I'm. All right,
didn't know which
go ahead and
Discord.
start. I'll grab it.
Okay, so I generally was not a big fan of licensed video games. They were usually kind of shovelware, not the best. But for whatever reason, I did pick up on the Phantom Menace because I was really hyped for Star Wars, man. Like all of us were probably, because it was the first time a new Star Wars movie was coming out since
Yeah.
the original trilogy.
Well, and
oh
it was
my
going to
gosh.
have pod racing.
and they had a video game that came out like right, pretty much they scheduled it right for when the movie hit theaters. And
So help me, if
I-
you're talking about Super Bombad Racing, I'm done.
I'm talking about the Phantom Menace the game.
Okay.
And the Phantom Menace the game was it was a kind of a 3D platformer, but the camera angle was really high. It was almost like a top down kind of thing. And so that made it as
Man,
a platformer
I'm looking at
very-
this. This looks weird.
It's janky. I mean, the graphics are dated. I mean, this is 1999.
Did Lucasfilm
So,
make this?
Well, this was LucasArts.
Or LucasArts,
contracted
yeah.
contracted with the company that did the what was it? It was their big claim to fame was an SNES game. I think it was like Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I think is what it was.
Oh, right.
It was their big thing that they did before this, which is kind of wild because this is a 3D, Star Wars entry, and that was an SNES game. But anyway, it's interesting if you actually follow the development of this because they kind of got ahead of even the development of the film itself, and so they found that they had to pad some of the content. And so what ended up happening is, you're kind of following events in the film, and you're playing as Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan, and there's a little bit of lightsaber action, what have you. You're fighting through Naboo, through some droids, whatever, and then you get to Tatooine, and they just we got to figure out something to do here, and instead of we'll just kind of railroad you through some fights and some cutscenes or whatever. They decided to open it up into an open world RPG. And so this sudden genre shift basically happens in halfway point in the game. And suddenly you're wandering around Tatooine, you're on fetch quests, you're solving puzzles, you're trying to find ways to negotiate for parts for your spaceship. You're trying to do things to fix the pod race, and you can get into all kinds of trouble. You can actually sequence break the game, and they have to give you a non-standard game over essentially as a result. You can slaughter Jawas to the point that they send oversized Jawas that shoot grenade launchers at you.
I'm sorry, what?
They have
Jawas had bigger brothers?
Yes, in this game they absolutely do. There are
Sounds like they took
guards.
some liberty with the source material.
So many liberties, and as a result, this ends up being the most fun that you would ever expect in the Phantom Menace game. Was dorking around in Mos Espa on Tatooine, and it's my favorite level in any licensed video game, like probably by a long shot.
Yeah, I did not have this on my bingo card. I will be upfront about that.
Yeah, very unexpected.
And it really, like, it's a janky game, but if you do get a chance, I mean, it is on PC. I think maybe it runs. I have not tried to play it in the last 10 years.
I just want to move that camera down, though.
Yeah. There is a cheat code actually that you can enter to change the camera angle. I think the camera angle.
They make you cheat to do it
because of the limitations of how much could be rendered at once. Because this was coming out for like N64 and like PlayStation 1 and PC, but like if they drew everything, it would drop your frame rate like crazy. But if you enter the cheat code, they let you do it.
Man,
and then would be over the shoulder, like a much more conventional kind of camera view. And so
yeah,
top down.
Blowing my mind here. I would never have thought of that as a solution. Holy cow! What is this game?
It's fun. It's worth checking out if for nothing else other than novelty. I wouldn't say it's a particularly great game, but it definitely has its moments.
It definitely gives you some perspective.
Yes.
Some over the head perspective.
Yeah, there's the joke. Man, that is not what I anticipated. Jeez Louise. You guys are pulling out some interesting ones. No, so another one that made me fall in love with the game, N64 era, Banjo-Kazooie. When I first started playing it, I'm like, okay, the humor for this is fun, but where the game really sort of came into its own as far as like, holy crap, because, Mario 64 comes in and shows, all right, this is sort of what you can do, but that's sort of all it can do, because no one's made this type of game before. There's literally no precedent for what this game, what this type of game would be. Well, Banjo-Kazooie, that one's good. No, Freezeezy Peak. Because that's when you get the Buzz, was it Buzzbeak ability, where you can just launch yourself. And you have the mission to launch yourself and like push in the buttons on the giant snowman, while smaller snowmen are throwing snowballs at you, trying to knock you out of the air. And it was just this. We'd never had this type of movement in a 3D environment, and it just suddenly felt like everything is different now.
I remember having a similar response to Mario 64. The very first time you get in a cannon. And it's just like, what is happening?
You're going to blow up. That's what's happening.
Like, this game just changed because you launch yourself and you're like, I am not supposed to be able to move this way. Again, movement is a big factor in many of these.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because suddenly it's like the developers had to actively put this in the game. They've put something into a game that I've never seen before, and I've been playing games my whole life. So,
yeah, it's interesting that it's because when you think of like games, you normally think of like the objective, but how you move in a game. Frankly, I think the Spider-Man games are the new Sony ones are entirely built around that concept and just how fun it is to swing around as Spider-Man.
I got a lot of Mirror's Edge flashbacks playing the Spider-Man games, honestly.
Yeah.
I had Mistborn imagery.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Oh, well,
That's the dream.
Well, I mean, before that new Spider-Man game, the game that actually gave me that feeling more than anything else was Infamous 2 and in Second Son. Like, Infamous 2, well, I guess there was a point you had to choose between fire and ice, but I chose ice because, as you said, Paragon for days, right? But with the ice power in Infamous 2, you could just, like, make ice grow out of the ground and launch you, like, 50 feet in the air.
And it felt so good.
It was so fun. I was like, okay, I'm not moving any other way from now on. I'm just making giant ice pillars to launch me through.
I am Ice Folk now.
Air. It's like, oh, it was amazing.
This is just an ice launching simulator.
Yep, and it was so fun. And then and then Second Son even up the ante because you could absorb light powers from that one girl, and then you could like kind of run at almost light speed and run up a building. It basically, you feel like the Flash running around, which was pretty cool.
Who were the devs on that? Was that a Naughty Dog? Or?
And you can zip through. It was Sucker Punch, and you could also zip through power lines with another one of the powers.
Oh, the power lines was great.
Didn't you grind on the power lines?
And the L train.
That's right. Yeah. I never played the game, but it was one of those ones I watched and I was like, this.
Yeah, I watched Bill play a bit of it.
That's right.
I'd like to get around to that, and I hadn't yet.
No, the traversal options, especially in those open world style games, are so important.
Well, it's funny, like, when I think about, in the case of this newer Spider-Man games, like, they had a fast travel option, but screw that, I wasn't going to use that.
Yeah, it's not
too fun. Too fun to go across the map.
It's like, oh, I got to go cross town? Like, well, here I go. I'm launching myself off the towers. Let's go.
Let's see how high I can go. Let's see how fast I can go. Like, yeah.
Let's do some tricks on the way down.
The thing that so impresses me, because there's been good Spider-Man games before Sony Spider-Man.
Well, like I mean, just really quick, I wanted to to really write home the point. There was an achievement that you got by using the fast travel like 3 or 5 times, and I didn't have it. I had to look up, how do I get this achievement? Oh, no wonder why I would never get this without looking up how to do it.
Go into the map and actually just.
Sounds so boring.
I mean, once I knew how to get it, I got the achievement easy, but I never would have gotten it naturally.
But like there were good Spider-Man games before Sony Spider-Man. The one everyone always talks about is the Spider-Man 2 movie adaptation, which is.
That was a good one.
But for me, the one I remember was the Ultimate Spider-Man game that was created. And it was one of those things that I didn't think at the time, like, oh, how are they ever going to beat this, this movement system? Because it was so satisfying. But then Sony Spider-Man comes out and just makes it so much more fluid. And
actually makes physical sense, unlike that Spider-Man 2 adaptation you talk about.
Yeah, you could be in the middle of nowhere and you're just swinging.
You're just swinging from cloud to cloud,
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things about the Ultimate Spider-Man game is they created web zipping so that if there was nothing around for you to actually latch onto, you could still get some speed horizontally at least. Mm-hmm. And they clearly learned from that. But they made the movement between going from swinging to running just so effortless. Although I did sometimes get myself stuck on like ladders outside of buildings with that system. But otherwise, it's pretty butter.
Yeah. Every now and then you were going the wrong direction on a wall, but for the most part, it was pretty good.
I'll never forget the first time I swung like into a building, but like sort of near like the top, and he just starts running up the side. And as a comic book dork who's always wanted that style of Peter Parker, it's like, oh my goodness, this feels so nice.
It's that kind.
I've wanted this for so long and I didn't realize it. The other thing that I wanted to bring to the table that I had planned, as far as a level that suddenly makes you just pause and just realize what is possible. So it might be a little untraditional because it's not so much a level as much as it is a map. In Team Fortress 2, there's a map that no one ever plays, and it was my favorite map, CP Steel.
Okay.
Oh,
I had a feeling. I'm like, are you going to Steel? Is
Yes.
it Steel? Yeah.
I loved CP Steel.
I'm with you. I don't know why. I think it was originally not official map, and I think they adopted it.
Yeah. So CP Steel was interesting. So it was a control point map, and so Team Fortress 2 always has attack and defend on those style of maps. Well, the thing that was interesting about it was the goal was to capture point E, and you can always capture point E, but point E is literally an island out in the middle of nowhere in this one room. And so the only way you can get to it is via like rocket jumps or scout double jumping. And it's way easy for the defending team to guard it. But there's always
overlooking it, they can shoot you off.
Yeah.
Lots of
but there's always a threat of E being captured. It's very much Ender's Game, the gate is down type of thing. But as you capture other points, they move, like one moves the control point where they like the defenders spawn. Another one creates ramps so that you can actually walk to the point.
To get to them, yeah.
And then
closes windows that would otherwise overlook.
Yeah.
That they could shoot from. And
so every time you capture a point, it makes it easier. And so I loved the push and pull of the map. And it was one of these things that when it came out, it just opened up my mind to what was possible in a game style like this.
Possible in that one.
Yeah, well, and just the concept that you always have to guard your back in TF2 where the spy exists is such an important concept. And it was added with the shenanigans of there's always the threat that you could just lose out of nowhere if you overcommit to defending one of the other points. And I don't know, it made maps like that made me go from I like TF2 to I love TF2.
That was a good one. I'm with you. I really wish that it was more widely adopted.
I just don't think some people just can't handle multitasking.
What was that? What was the CP one everyone always liked to play? I'm trying to remember what that one was called.
You talking
Two Fort?
Oh, no. That's a capture the.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's CTF.
Right.
Dust Bowl.
Dust
Yeah.
Bowl. Yes.
Yeah.
Dust Bowl. Has
But-
different phases.
Yeah, and when Dust Bowl's a fine map, but it's just not.
Dust Bowl's fun, but it's only 2 points at a time.
Yeah. It's just not as dynamic.
You don't have all five in one.
And you don't have to worry about Al Smooth shenanigans with engineering and
Oh, Al Smooth.
Good old ninjineering.
I will say Dust Bowl had one advantage as far as things was I got introduced to what was apparently our old tradition dating back to like when Secret Agent Clan, our guild, was formed that I didn't know about, called Raptor Squad. And as Al Smooth was like, "Hey, Demon Cat, what? Raptor Squad? Ooh, let's do Raptor Squad." And I'm just like, what's Raptor Squad? And they're like, shh, don't tell him. I'm like, what? And this was back when Demo Man had just barely been given the charge and targe, where they could melee kill you with this charging ability out of nowhere. And I saw one of them out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm an engineer, and so I just start shooting because I'm like, oh, they don't have a gun. So I start chasing after them and just shooting them with my pistol. And then out of nowhere from the side, I get my head chopped off.
Clever girl.
And yeah, and Alsmooth just goes Raptor Squad, like just yells it. And they're just to which, and that was the thing. But they said, I'm like, why is it Raptor Squad? And then they said clever girl, and I said, like, girl, I get it.
Because we were 90s kids.
But it was just one of those things. It's the emergent gameplay that is created by multiplayer games on specific maps that allow for stuff like that. And so I know we're talking about levels, but maps are sort of like levels.
Oh, yeah, I think that counts for sure.
But no, do you guys have any others you wanted to bring up?
Well, I put in the watch together an AM2R boss fight level that I thought was
Pulling it up.
Really unique and interesting, and that is the weapon tester area.
Oops.
So if you had played...
What's the game again? AM2R?
Yeah, another
Metroid 2 remake.
Yeah, so in the original Metroid 2, you could only hold one weapon at a time. Like, it wasn't permanent inventory. You had to swap it out.
Yeah, it was just like the original Metroid.
And so in the very middle of the entire map, there was a place that had all the weapons available so you could swap out the weapons. And when Milton Guasti was trying to re-envision how to do this game, he envisioned, the tower where all the weapons are, I'm going to say that this is where the Chozo developed the weapons and tested them. And so what you're seeing right now is the boss, which is testing all of Samus's weapons that can be equipped on the power suit. So it's like the Chozo technology being used against you as a boss, but it wasn't designed to kill you. It was designed to test the weapons of your power suit. And I thought that was a really cool idea, and made a really fun boss. So it's like you're fighting pieces of the power suit right now. And I thought that was a really cool idea.
That is interesting. Yeah, I never actually played AM2R, unfortunately.
It's a great game.
It's an amazing game.
I thought you were just talking about some weird low frequency sounds. So.
No,
that's ASMR. That's very different.
No, that is... I love the trend of remaking old games, but with the newer games features.
Well, and he added like a bunch of lore that followed it wasn't breaking lore, but
right.
Like, for example, in the original manual, it mentions how they had sent other Space Marines, but they weren't heard from again, and so they sent Samus to go investigate. Well, you actually find their base, and when you first find it, you find the last one getting killed by the Metroids, and you end up having to fight a Metroid right then, but then you can see like the remains of all the other Space Marines who are there, and he even added an extra level where you find the spaceship that they landed on, and that's its own stage too. Like, he did a lot of cool stuff, taking just kind of like the opening lore of the original game and fleshing it out in this remake. Just a fantastic game.
So I have one that I don't really want to talk about because, again, it is spoilers. It's just something that y'all want to play. But for anyone listening who has played The Messenger, I'll just say, immediately after you do the thing. And yes, people who've played The Messenger will know what I'm talking about.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just checking. Another one, even though it's kind of just cheating because it's the first level, the original Donkey Kong Country, that very first level, because not only is it just gorgeous, but they teach you right from the start that this is a game full of secrets, because you can just go right back to where you started and get an extra life.
Yes, immediately
Yep.
go and get the bananas.
And so they teach you right from the start that we're going to be asking you to do weird things. And then they
Well,
give you,
especially because there are some people who their instinct is always to go left, because you're telling me to go right. Well, what happens if I go left? And typically nothing. But
Yeah.
you're immediately
Some
rewarded
games
for
wouldn't
it.
even let you go left if you
Uh-huh.
went.
But you're immediately rewarded for it.
yeah, and then, but then they also give you Rambi, and I think they spell Y with bananas. And so you try, he's like, okay, I hit Y. And Rambi starts this charging up animation. And then he takes off with this huge burst of speed. And you're like, ooh. So he can charge up. But they design it in such a way that you're going to fall off a cliff and you will naturally break through a wall and get to a secret area. And it was just so well designed to show you exactly how you do things in this game, and the fact that there's secrets in these games, and you're going to do things non-traditionally. I mean, that era of Rare just did not spit out anything other than gold. And there's just something to be said about a game where they've designed it so well that it just teaches you how to play it.
You gonna bring up sequelitis discussion here?
We
'Cause
could
that's
bring
what
up
I see.
sequelitis.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up a sequel that I thought went really well. Actually,
Okay.
if you don't mind. I put a link in the Discord chat to
Okay.
a game I loved unabashedly, Jedi Outcast. So, for those of you who are familiar with the whole Dark Forces theories, the very first game was straight, first-person shooter, in the era of like Doom.
Yeah, and I couldn't
That-
beat the
that
first
style.
level.
It was hard.
I
And,
couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, the first game was every map was a maze practically. The second game, they put in a lot of that's when they actually called you a Jedi Knight. You got a lightsaber. You actually got to move in 3 dimensions. You had force powers, but they were kind of rudimentary. Like yes, you had some areas that you needed to force jump to access, and you needed speed sometimes to get around. But they really didn't integrate it in a very artful way. And then Jedi Outcast came out.
I love this game. I need to finish it.
Oh, it is so great. So like just story-wise, they start you up with the same character, Kyle Katarn, who I am still sad that he is not in the canon anymore.
He's in the canon in my book.
He's in my
Canon that matters.
He's in my head canon as well. So
And in most of the fans' head canon as well. So he that makes it canon more so than whoever shells out money, in my opinion.
go. So in Jedi Outcast, they start you off. I mean, you would already basically become like this incredible Jedi Master by the end of the second game. But at Jedi Outcast, the third game, you start off and you don't have any of your powers again. Like you're like, what? Did they Metroid me? What happened? They don't really go into too much detail except that you've kind of fallen out of favor with the Force, sort of thing. And so you're reliant on just like your guns, and you do have a little bit of jump ability, but my gosh, it feels like you can only jump like 2 feet, and it's like hardly worth it. And then you finally events happen, and you need to go and talk to Luke. You go to Yavin, which is the level that they reintroduce all of your force powers back into. And they work it in such artful way, because they actually they basically, I mean, these are trials that every Jedi has to work through, but you relearn all of your skills pretty much all at once. So you basically got you're overpowered as far as a Jedi initiate, but they still make you teach how to push and pull, how to jump, how to use your speed, and the motion that you find that you suddenly get with just the force jump alone, and is incredible, because also when you get your lightsaber, it immediately switches you to third person view, and suddenly you find you can wall run, you can flip off of walls. When you jump, you float in this like kind of like unusual way. You don't just like, launch yourself like you did in the second game, and it's just you just feel like you're playing like freaking like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the game, and it is so smooth, so fun. And I actually also have to give props to the multiplayer because it's also wild, the kinds of shenanigans that you get. Like you get the dogfights where you're running up walls and slashing at each other about 30 to 50 feet above a chasm and like slashing at each other trying to knock the other one off. Hellcast is such a great game.
Well, and for me, it got even better once I decided to remap the controls a bit. So I like to have mine set up to where I have the mouse wheel control, mouse wheel forward is force push, mouse wheel backward is force pull, and holding down the mouse wheel button itself is the force grip.
The grip.
And it just having that set to the control made it just so intuitive and butter smooth. So
that's right. And you had control of your grip too, which was the most fun, right?
Oh yeah.
You would be able to move your mouse wherever, and you'd swing the stormtrooper or whoever you had grabbed with you.
Well, yeah. Well, and that was so fun, just using your force powers to take out these stormtroopers. So one thing I'd like to do is I'd force jump in the air so I'm directly above them, and then I'd spin my mouse wheel back, and it would just launch them all up in the air, and they'd come flying up even above where I was, and then they'd come crashing down
And die of fall damage.
And then, of course, there's also, holding it down, getting the force grip going, and then you move the mouse around, and you can launch them.
You can whack them against walls or
you smack them against walls. My favorite was one where, like, I was on some space station, and I grabbed one, and I was swinging around, let go, and I happened to launch him straight down a hallway, like just perfectly down the hallway, where he went into the other room where there was one of those like control panels that's like just a piece of glass that you could get on either side of the monitor, the glass panel, and he shattered through the glass panel, but the game didn't know how to react, so the enemies in there, even though a stormtrooper just comes flying in their room, crashing through the monitor they're looking at, they didn't aggro because I was so far away. And and I go down like, what just happened? And I look, and I could see him through, like, finally down the hallway through this glass pane, and there's the officers there who didn't even react to it. It was hilarious.
Oh, right. I love AI back in the day. The jank actually was a feature, not a bug. All right. We've been going a while.
AI is so fun.
Yeah, we've been going a while. Let's maybe do one more a piece if you can think of one. One last one I want to do. I already brought up TF2, Portal, and Half-Life. So we've covered all of Valve, it seems, except for the original Half-Life. And how mind-blowing that first level was. And all you're doing is riding a tram.
Mm-hmm. Because you're able to move around inside of
it wasn't a cutscene.
Yes. Yeah. No cutscene.
Rendered. You were in the engine.
And it made no sense. That, like, it was one of those moments where you're just like, am I in the future? I think I'm in the future.
It's like, why can I move? Why can I move?
And it also just showed, just as is covered so well in Freeman's mind, as you just see all this toxic waste everywhere. It's like, oh crap. If this gets into the water table, we're screwed. I need to get a new
ounce of self-defense and counting.
Oh, Freeman's mind. That's the best line. I don't think they're going to buy my excuse of 35 counts of self-defense with a sub-automatic rifle.
Oh, that was a good series.
It's still going on. He's still working his way through. Yeah, he's working. He's now in Ravenholm, actually.
Oh my gosh! I thought that he had Oh wow.
Oh wow.
No,
Because
he's
that was
We
like
don't go there anymore though.
10 plus years ago. I
so
think.
the funny thing is the way everything's worked out through the game, he doesn't understand what the gravity gun goes. And it makes sense for the character of Gordon in this thing. So he's going through Ravenholm and he's having to just ration all the ammo and stuff because he doesn't get what the gravity gun does because it felt too much like a toy to him. And so it's so frustrating watching him go through Ravenholm, but he can't decide if Father Grigori's trying to kill him or not. Freeman's Mind is amazing, and people need to watch it. All right. Anyone else got any other things they want to say?
Sure. I wanted to talk briefly about Final Fantasy. And,
Okay.
In all of them, especially the first, well, not so much the newer ones, but the first ones, like in the NES and then the SNES, just how awesome it is when you finally get an airship, and now suddenly
Everything is accessible. Yes.
Yeah, the entire map is open to you, and just how wonderful that feels.
Mhm.
But then Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy V, and Final Fantasy VI, all the Super Nintendo ones, they decided to take that to a whole nother level. Because Final Fantasy IV, you got the airship, you're like, oh cool, this is awesome, I can go everywhere. But then there's this one quest that has you throw a key down a well. And you throw this key down a well, and you're like, what was that about? And then suddenly one of the mountains opens up a giant hole. And you're like, okay. And the plot has you ride your airship down into the hole that is now in this mountain.
Down into the volcano, yep.
And you ride down the volcano, and you get to the underworld, the land of the dwarves. And it's a whole new world map for you to explore underground. It's like, whoa, that is cool. There's more than one world map. This is awesome. And it doesn't just do that once. It does it to you twice, because at the very end of the game, you get a spaceship and you go to the moon. And there's a third world map. And it's like, man, just opening the world multiple times. Final Fantasy V had a secondary world, though, as well. And then Final Fantasy VI, of course,
Broke the world.
broke the world. It was the same world, but the world of balance and the world of ruin, where halfway through the game the world gets broken. So it's like you get the airship, you have access to everywhere, the world gets broken, and you have to get the airship again. And it's a whole new world map.
Yeah, when you're playing a game and the end of the world is the halfway point, you're like, oh.
Yeah. So like the opening up of the world, having multiple world maps, and 6 for halfway through the game, the world ends, and that's halfway through. Just how cool the game gets really
and
real.
Everything, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, if you're...
Team split up.
You might be playing a Final Fantasy game if the end of the world is the halfway point.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo Final Fantasies really were something special, and there's a reason why that was the golden age of RPGs. I mean, it was before they were as mainstream as they got on the PlayStation 1, but I still view the Super Nintendo as much of the golden age. Though, the PS1 was a good time too.
Baggins, you got anything else?
I think I'm good for now. I've put in a few, more than I was expecting. So,
All right.
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't talk about the sand ship from Skyward Sword.
why?
I thought you really liked the mechanic of having the time warp around you.
Actually, that was me.
I thought it was cool. Yeah.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was...
That was, now that you mention it, yeah, I forgot about that. The problem is I have a real love-hate relationship with that now, because I never ended up beating Skyward Sword, because then I fought the final boss of that whole thing, and
Muppet boss.
Yeah, the Muppet boss. And I sort of just like, I'll get back to this. And I never did. It's so stupid.
Trying to decide what you mean by Muppet boss.
It looks like a Muppet.
It looks like Mike Wazowski's girlfriend in Monsters Inc.
Oh, in that level? In the
Snakes for hair?
In the sand ship?
Yeah.
No, I didn't have too much of a problem with it. But...
I didn't have an issue like beating it. That was fine. It was just sort of like, I don't know, it just killed the momentum.
Yeah.
Or I was just like, eh.
But being seeing a giant vast desert and then being on a boat with that little time travel time distortion device on your boat, making it into
it's so
sea.
Cool. It is so
cool.
Like, it's one of those things. Like, I have it's a weird love-hate relationship with that area. But yeah, it just is so... Because, look, the Legend of Zelda series has a sort of a tradition at this point of having parallel worlds going on. You have Link Between Worlds doing it. You have Ocarina of Time doing it with time passing. And then Skyward Sword has it, but it's commingling the two times. And so I don't know, it's
such a cool idea.
Yeah, it's one of those things, when well executed, there's very little that is as good as the parallel world mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you can't always pull it off amazingly. But the Legend of Zelda team seems to have a pretty good grasp on that. Anyway, all right. Let us wrap things up. Pirate, do you have anything you want to promote?
No, just happy to be here.
All right, I love the attitude. Lunasar.
I'll promote my wife's stream. Tuesdays, Thursdays, shiny hunting Pokemon. Lizzie Petrichor.
All right. Baggins.
Well, normally I would promote the Innkeeper's Table, but in our most recent episode, we did announce that we are going on an extended, possibly permanent hiatus. So instead, I will promote the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, which is the podcast that Splice and I do with our third friend, Amy, where we talk about Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere books.
It's a pretty good podcast. If you like Brandon Sanderson, you should listen.
Yeah.
All right. And
read the sacred books. Huh?
Yeah, you probably should get around to that. Yeah. Or have them read to you like a proper Vorin man.
Since there are even more coming out now.
Yeah, but I gotta prep myself for the next Way of Keys.
Yeah, by reading the secret projects.
Hard ask.
Easy ask. Just do it while you're flying planes. See, I've solved the problem. I'm doing great. All right. Who does need to land? I don't know. All right. And then me, you can always find me on twitch.tv or kick.tv/splicestream. We have been having fun with Video Game 20 Questions. Baggins is one of two people to break the 40-point barrier on that. If you don't know what that is, you should definitely find out. And I've also been enjoying my playthrough of Fire Emblem on Straturday. It's Saturday strategy. It's very clever. It's a portmanteau. And we've been doing Fire Emblem Awakening, and I made Butterfly Woman marry Batman, and it's really good. Even though I found out I did some things wrong that sort of defeated the purpose of effort I put in later, but that's the fun of figuring stuff out. Anyway. All right, I think this is a pretty good episode. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of really special levels, but this time